Hello everyone and welcome at CES TV. My name is Jolijn and I'm your host for today. Today we're going to talk about different topics that are important while organizing a TV show or also an event. We talk about different topics like gamification, experience, crowd safety and also ethics. These are our experts on the table, but before we get started with them, I will first talk a little bit about GDPR. Because what is GDPR? GDPR is General Data Protection Regulation. It's a law that was introduced in May 2018. But the law is really difficult and also really big. So I'm going to tell you more about it and what it is. So what the law is that you have to protect the data from everyone. And you cannot keep the data as long as necessary, but only for a short amount of time while you need it. Also, if you want to get the data from children under the age of 13, you have to ask permission to their parents. And you have to be transparent what you're going to do with that data. If you collect it, it needs to be for a specific topic or purpose, and it needs to be legitimate. And it also needs to process secure, because otherwise, if there's a data attack or a security failure, then your data is just out on the street. If a company is not following this law or not following these rules and they fail, you can get a fine up to 10 million or up to 20 million. What do you guys think about these fines?
Oh, big ones.
Yeah, good fines, because it's really important that data is protected.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I feel like the fines might be on a high side for smaller companies, but I don't know, can you tell a little bit more about how that works?
Yeah, the small companies have a smaller fine. It's also, they can look at the overall they make in a year, the overall money, and then they have to pay 2% of this.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes it a whole lot more reasonable, and I think it's a good law, ethically speaking as well.
Okay. And did you guys ever read the terms and conditions yourselves, if you approve to them?
Too much of the words.
Too much letters.
Yeah.
No.
So you never read them?
Probably not. Maybe I tried one time, but too boring.
Most of the time you have to scroll through them, so it makes sense that you read parts of it, I guess, but it's not that big of what you understand of it. So most of the time you scroll through it and you just click accept instead of reading everything that's in there.
Okay. Yeah, that's also what I think. I think the law is kind of difficult and also the terms and conditions are quite broad. So we will come back to that later. But first, we want to talk about if it's ethical. So, Pleun, could you tell us a little bit more about that and also what your specific specialization is?
Yes, hi, my name is Pleun. I am your ethics expert for today. For me, it's really important that everything that happens around the world, and mostly in sports and events, happens in a respectful and fair way. This is also my expertise. I started looking into women in sports and how they are received in a men's world. This gave me a very good overview of how respect and fairness works, but also how ethics in general concludes in this world. When looking at events and the sector we are talking about, so sports, it is really important to look at what sporters do on the field or during a match. And then you can also see how the public reacts to that, which is kind of needed to understand how the GDPR rules work, because without being able to see people and how they react while a match is happening, you don't have the data you need to know what's going to happen in the next match or how people can react in different ways. So yeah, that.
So you think it's important to collect that data to see what they can improve for the next one?
Yes.
Okay. So Adria, if we talk about experiences, can you tell us more about what an experience actually is?
Yeah, of course. So, hello all, I'm Adria, your expert of experience in this case. So, in events, people may not remember what happened in the event, but they will definitely remember how you made them feel during it. So, this quick exercise will help building more meaningful and memorable experiences for the clients. I think that experience is a thing we all care about, we all want to live, and we all want to spend money on it because it's a unique thing. And to start talking a little bit about the topic, sorry. To talk a little bit about the topic, I will give you the definition of what is event experience indeed. So event experience refers to how the attendees perceive and engage with your event, and includes how participants feel about the different aspects of the event, like, for example, registration and ticketing, the entertainment and food, and, for example, the event content or engagement opportunities. So our main objective as experience builders is to create a personalized experience for the client that is going to be meaningful and memorable for them. So I will say that experiences can come in a lot of different forms and shapes. For each one can be different an experience. For example, for you can be a football match, for you can be a concert. For me, for example, a memorable experience was to go to a Disney cruise where we were surrounded by Disneyland World, and it was completely amazing. We had a really good experience with the ticketing, the entertainment, and the food was really nice. So, what is for you guys a memorable experience you had, and why is it an experience and not just an event? What it makes the difference with it? Can you start, please, Jolijn?
Yeah, sure. I think my most memorable experience was at Constantine. I don't know if you guys know it. Did you know it?
Yes. No.
Yeah, Constantine is actually a 3-day concert in the Netherlands, and it's at the sea. So it's a really nice surrounding, especially if it's good weather. So the first day I went this year, the weather was really bad, but we still went, and it was good, but the experience wasn't that great because of the rain, and it's all outside. And then the second and the third day, the weather was so good and the sun was shining. So then it's also nice to be surrounded by the sea and nice artists. And I work next to that, so I didn't have tickets yet. But before that, I went on the internet to search if there were tickets available. And I could easily still buy them and go for the weekend with the nice weather. And when we were waiting in line to get inside, it was also really nice entertainment. There were standing people above the entrance, entertaining the people, so it was not boring to wait. And when we came in, they had like different stages where you could go to, different foods you could eat. And also what they improved from last year was that they also had a stage on the beach. That was really nice, that you had the feeling like you were in Ibiza, but you were in the Netherlands. And it was a smaller stage with also more bands and small kind of artists that you could also have the opportunity, to start somewhere, maybe go next year on the big podium. So, Jona, can you tell us more about your memorable experience?
Yes, of course. First of all, I'm Jona, I'm the crowd safety manager for today, but that's for later. My most memorable experience is actually a football match. What a surprise! But I went to the half final of Ajax against Olympique Lyon in the Europa League, and we were in the stadium and the Amsterdam Arena, and the atmosphere was absolutely amazing. Every fan was just jumping around, screaming, and that was maybe because Ajax won, like quite comfortably, but it made a great experience for me at the time.
You were really engaged with the atmosphere, right?
Yeah. If you're there, you can sit, because otherwise you cannot watch the game. So you have to jump with them, sing with them, and that makes it amazing.
Okay. Hello, I'm Dominikas. Today I'm gonna talk about gamification also later, but about the experience. One of my memorable experiences is Formula One race. Uh, I was watching a lot of Formula before going to the race itself, to the event itself, but it was nothing like to see event from your own eyes, to hear the sound, to feel it. There was huge amount of people, but the crowd was dealt perfectly, so you couldn't feel that this is, oh, it's so bad to wait 1 hour in the line or something. No, it was perfect. Then of course I wasn't in the site where I could sit, but to stand all day, to hear the sound of Formula One, to see how it goes so fast, it's just incredible. And yeah, it gives you one of the best life experiences, I think, even if you're not a fan of Formula One. So yeah.
And can I ask you to which race you went?
I went to this year's Antwerp during September, so Dutch Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And do you have any other race you would maybe want to go to?
of course, if I can attend other ones, like night race sounds also memorable, something different. To go to another country, see other race tracks, other people, other culture. It also gives something more unique and special.
Different, of course. And Plön, last?
This is actually a good bridge to my most memorable experience, which is the Formula One race in Turkey last year.
Oh.
It was added to the calendar last minute because Japan couldn't happen because of COVID-19. This made that the tickets were a little cheaper, and the event around it was somewhat smaller because it wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. But the fans and the zone where the fan zone around it was still pretty big, and it was amazing. And what Dom said, hearing the sounds, and I had seats in there. The seating area was big, and you had your own space. It was great.
Okay, so maybe you are thinking of how can we create these meaningful experiences. So we have like three tips that can help on building these meaningful experiences. The first one, for example, can be letting the attendees feel delighted, and by combining physical and virtual experiences, such as adding gamification in the events.
Mm-hmm.
On the second place, we can see that avoiding attendees feeling sidelined by geography, for example, technology, socioeconomical status, or ability, or other factors can be helpful for building these meaningful experiences. And on the last place, we can see that feeling empowered to orchestrate this type of unique events and create moments that serve each individual unique needs and expectations can really help for create these meaningful experiences. And but just to end this introduction, how can we measure the success of an event to see if this event had become an experience for the guests? So asking attendees, asking for feedback, watching the sales or the attendees numbers that went to the event, analyzing data, doing post-event surveys, or wrapping up, or with social media activity, for example.
Okay, thank you very much, Adrian. If we think about experiences and how we can make them better, Dom, could you tell us a little bit more about what gamification is and how you could improve the fan experience with that?
Yeah, of course. So as I said, I'm Dominicas, and I'm working in gamification sector, which takes very big part in creating a good experience, as Adrian already told. And gamification is not very known term and thing to people, because even if exists centuries already, but the gamification term came only around 10-15 years ago, and businesses started to use it, and it worked, and it will work even better in the future because it's a new thing and businesses trying to implement this more and more. But Okay, now what it is and how we can use it. So, for example, experience can also be bad, right? People don't like event. It can be boring, not interesting. And here's where gamification steps and improving experience. So, gamification is a non-game. It's a game setting in a non-game environment. So I will take just example to tell you what it is exactly. Let's take learning languages. It can be very hard because you need to memorize words, memorize how to speak, all the grammar, etc., etc. It gives a lot of headache and a lot of time for people, but it people losing interest during the learning, during the process of activity. But there's one app called Duolingo. Do you guys know this app?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so for the viewers that do not know, Duolingo is a learning language app. You can learn there basically all the main languages you can think of. And what Duolingo did is they put it scoring points if you're finishing the session. You can see your leaderboard. You can get medals, achievements for finishing all lectures. And this is why Duolingo is now one of the most popular, it's actually the most popular learning language app in the world because it has these gamification elements. It's not a game as you see, but it has these game elements where you can see your leaderboard or something, and it gives people fun experience, and then they are not losing interest. They're motivated, driven to learn more. Another example can be Strava app, running app. Physical activities can be also not motivating, can be not so motivating. And it also, Strava app, giving some achievements, medals. You can share it with other friends. You can get likes, comments for that. So people also feel special when they run. And yeah, the app, Strava app, that is the most popular running app in the world, and that's also because of gamification. Or another example can be gambling industry. I know that gambling is ethically not very popular and good thing, but yeah, gambling is for centuries in the people's society, and it's because they're using gamification elements. So yeah, also Adria told about data, that you need to use people's data to improve experience. So gamification is also doing that, collecting data, because it's very important to see and improve all the aspects of game elements. Because if you're not doing it, bad things can happen, like your product or event can fail. So that's about gamification.
Thank you, Dominikas. I want to come back to Strava because with running, I really struggled sometimes for going out, or I didn't want to go. And then with Strava, you have these challenges. So yes, run 10 kilometers in a week, or you could see the leaderboard if you run more or less, and it really motivates you. So I think also in events, this could be a really good thing to add.
Yeah, of course. And the events also, the events don't have very much of gamification elements yet, but I think Strava is part of the sport, right? And sport event, there's a lot of sport events. So for example, if you're running, you can start tracking sport people who are doing sport professionally, because they're also using Strava, and then okay, maybe I can be more interested in the sport. Also, there's a lot of sports using gamification as, for example, leaderboard. You can always see, for example, swimming. In the swimming, you can see leaderboard, which person have which time right now, how this person is close to each other. It has these all elements that help people to understand the game and enjoy it more.
Okay, thank you. If we're talking about events and having a good experience, we also need to look at crowd safety. Jona, can you tell us a little bit more about crowd safety and if that's important to improve the fan experience?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Well, yeah, as I said, I'm Jona and I'm a crowd safety manager. And when we look at events, like Adria said, you want to have a good experience in the event to make the event memorable and people recognize it and come back the next year. But it can also be the other way around. If you have an event that is badly managed, like the crowd of people is badly managed, the crowd gets in dangerous situations, people don't remember your event as good, like the experience is bad and they won't come back next year. The media is bad and basically it's a downward spiral from that on. Because crowd safety is, of course, as the name suggests, keeping the crowd safe, keeping a big group of people safe. And for example, me as a crowd safety manager, we do that by making a risk analysis. So we identify the risk, possible risk that there are in the event. So we identify the likelihood the risks have of happening. So what is the chance the risk happens? If the risk happens, what would be the impact of the risk happening?
No, sorry.
What would be the impact of the risk happening? And we try to minimize the likelihood and the impact the risks have of happening. I want to give a small example of the Champions League final last year between Real Madrid and Liverpool. There's two of the biggest clubs in the world, and they had a Champions League final in Paris, in France. And when they had this final, the crowd management was actually quite bad, because a lot of people without tickets got into the stadium. They climbed fences, had fake tickets, so they got into the stadium, which meant that people with real tickets could not get into the stadium. This made them, of course, angry, because you paid for something, you want to get what you paid for. And after they did not get into the stadium, they started pushing around. They wanted to get into the stadium, and this made it a dangerous situation, because a crowd rush could happen, and people could get crammed into a small area, and it would get people trampled or that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's a little bit of crowd safety.
Could I ask a question about this
Of course.
event? Referring to people not getting into the stadium because other people without tickets got in, how did they solve this problem? Because ethically speaking, they paid for something, they should get what they paid for, right?
Yes, of course, I understand. But well, to solve this, they delayed the final for half an hour or an hour. And the security and the police tried to get the people without tickets out of the stadium. And then after they did that, they scanned the tickets and they checked the IDs of the people who got actual tickets to make sure people who got in had actual tickets. This meant the time people took for people to get into the stadium was a lot longer, but this meant that the people who got real tickets got into the stadium at last.
Okay, thank you, Jona. Do you?
Can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
So, do you think that the people that got inside the stadium without problems, they had the same experience as they expected before
Well,
because of the problems?
there were, of course, people who got into the stadium without any trouble. They were on the right side of the stadium by maybe good luck. So they got into the stadium like half an hour before the match. And then they were in the stadium, and the match got delayed for half an hour. So they were for a lot longer in the stadium than they expected. So they had to pay extra food, extra drinks, they had to go to the toilet extra. So they basically were forced to give out more money than they were intended to. And of course that made the experience worse than what they expected.
No.
Okay. Jona, do you think that they should always ask for IDs before the match? Because then maybe this wasn't happening.
Well, that's a point that could be discussed, because if you always ask for IDs before the match, it's going to take a lot longer to get a match to start, to get the people into the stadium, and people will get annoyed. Because if I was at a football match and I have to show my ID, everyone has to show their ID, it's going to take a lot longer to get into the stadium. But sometimes it can be good, because you can prevent things like this happening. So there would be no people without tickets in the stadium, and that would increase the experience in the end.
I'm just wondering, how does that work with GDPR? Is that okay that they ask everyone's IDs and?
Yeah, for now it's a discussion because they are talking about whether they can personalize all the tickets and ask for IDs, because then, yeah, all your data is on there. So I think first GDPR needs to be more transparent in everything, so people understand more about this and also know what they agree to. Because mostly now the terms and conditions are in small letters, or it's so big that nobody reads them. And I also think that people now don't have the chance to say that they don't want one specific thing to be processed from the data. Now you have to agree to everything. So I think there should be an option that people can choose what they want, and that it also is more transparent what they're doing with the data. More people would be able to do that. What do you think about this in regards to ethics?
I think ethically speaking, GDPR is a good thing. The law is there for a reason, and it helps to protect our data and make sure that we are all safe. But because this law is so complex and you don't understand everything that's in there, it is hard to see which parts are being protected and how they are protected. While these terms and conditions are very broad and not very clear, or in such a difficult language that the average person does not understand what is happening, I think they should change that in a way that it is clear for everyone. Let me explain myself a little more. When looking at ethics, ethics refers to well-founded standards of right and wrong that prescribe what humans ought to do, usually in terms of rights, obligations, benefits of society, fairness, and specific virtues. What this means is, looking at this situation, people want to know if their data is protected right or wrong. And with them having just, you can protect all your data and not go to this website or to this event, is wrong to me, because when you should be able to say, hey, I want this part of my data protected, while you can use this part, so that they can still do their event and collect the data that is actually needed, and not collect all of their data, which is also actually what GDPR stands for, but it's not done in the right way right now.
I think that having all the terms and conditions accepted from the customers are really helpful and useful for the experience side, because with that you can know all the information and data about the attendees that are going to come to your event. You can target that group, and after that you can build an experience more personalized for them and more focused on their needs and things that they want to see and live in the experience.
Yeah,
And
that's sorry, that was what I was thinking as well, because if you have, as an event organizer, if you have all the data of your clients, everyone gives all the data, you know what kind of people are coming, you can basically make the crowd safety, you can adjust the crowd safety to that, because if you know there's going to be a lot of people who like hard style music, for example, they have a bigger chance of taking drugs, and that can happen, and you have to be you have to know that and make the crowd safety so that it's safe even for the people who do that kind of stuff.
I agree also with Vedra and Ilna, because for gamification also, if you want to improve something, you need to know the people that are coming, so you need to know the data, you need to collect it, because background, target group is always important, more or less feedback from those people. And if you don't know that, gamification starts to become boring. It becomes like failing. It's
Not
failing.
non-personalized.
Yeah, non-personalized, and then people are not interested. So that's also, in my opinion, needs to be regulated, of course, but we still need a lot of data from them
Yeah, but a lot of data is something different than all of their data.
Of
Right
course.
now, when you accept terms and conditions, most of the times they get access to everything,
Mm-hmm.
which is, well, a big problem if they just get access to the parts that they need. So for gamification, they need to know the background of someone and their overall preferences, while they don't need to know which website they visited yesterday. It doesn't matter for them what happens, and this data could be used in the wrong way, which makes it ethically wrong that they use all of their data.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, it needs to be regulated, but it's very hard, I think, because you need to be as specific as possible which data you need, and it always, I think, changes which data can help for improvements. So the terms and conditions, if you regulate them, then you need to change them sometimes, which is also a headache for people to read, because reading again terms and conditions, I think none of us would like to hear that.
If they would do that in a clear way, in an easy to understand way, that they have, of course, their whole list of what we have now as terms of conditions,
Hmm.
so that everything is in there. But if they would explain in a clear way, hey, these are the parts that we really need to use, then people know what they're accepting.
Yes.
Right now, no one has a clue.
Yeah.
So that is where they should go with the GDPR law, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Before we all get a headache of the terms and conditions, I want to go to another topic, because I want to talk about the Zandvoort Grand Prix, where you went this year. And with our class, we went to CM.com. They were partners with the organizers of the F1 event, and they make sure, actually the crowd, they had all the data of the people who were coming to the event. People gave them their personal data, their phone numbers, their email addresses, and they made sure that they redirect the group of people, like the crowd of people can get concentrated in one spot on the F1 race circuit. And they identify hotspots, and before the hotspots were getting overcrowded, they would send messages on the phone to people like, yeah, we have some cheap drinks over here, come over here, and then the people could make a decision to go to a specific place to get cheaper drinks, play some games, and do some other stuff the event organizers organized. And this made sure that the crowd was not getting overcrowded, the place was not getting overcrowded, and there would be no crowd rushing.
Yeah, nice. Because I'm hearing also gamification elements saying to me they want to help people to have better experience from trying to prevent big crowds. So they're saying, okay, here's the cheap drinks, come here. So they're giving some rewards for them, like you can say rewards or some discounts. Come here, guys, we have cheap drinks. Then crowd starts to divide. Some of them are here, some of them are going to take drinks.
Yes.
And this is how lines are divided, and everyone comes, yeah, everyone has better experience.
As you say, everyone has a better experience, but everyone gave all their data, because who gives their phone number to a random organization? It's not something you do every day, right? But it created a better experience for the guests.
Yeah, definitely. In the end, these kind of details are the ones that make the difference between one event and an experience in an event. So about the data, maybe Jolijn can help us more.
Yeah, for sure. Before the event started, they all agreed to the terms and conditions. I have not been there myself, so I don't really know what they asked or how big the terms and conditions were. But I think if they are transparent with it, people are willing to give their phone number and also maybe their location so they can be tracked, and that the crowd is going to be safe at the event. And I think this is a good example, and I think it should be more implemented in other events as well, because I didn't hear it before, but I think it's a good way to manage the crowd.
Yes,
So
of course.
what do you think about this?
Ethically speaking, it's a difficult subject. It is because terms and conditions, as we already said, are way too long and way too complicated. But doing it in this way and actually being kind of transparent by texting, it is ethically a good way to create a better event. It creates the best experience that people could have, because without this, things would go wrong, which are ethically also wrong to have happen. So yeah, I think it's in some way a good invention that they did it this way.
Okay, thank you. I think it's also a good idea as long as the organization is transparent with what they do with the data, and also that they say before the event is happening that your location is not being tracked after the event, only in the event, and that they only use it to make sure that the crowd is safe and not for anything else. I want to close with one more question for you guys. Okay. Because I know you ran in a single lope, but did you know what they collected from you and all the data they used?
I don't know. I remember I put in my name, year of birth in registration.
Yeah, the information on the registration, right?
Yeah, I know. I think I know a little bit. Like they track your location throughout the race to look where you are, and yeah, of course to get your time right. But I don't know if there was anything else they did with my information.
Like, I know you also filled in something about your health as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew for sure that the health was on the back of your number. And I don't know if one of you just thrown it away, but then actually your data is just on the street. So do you think they should have said that, that they would do that?
Maybe it was a good thing. It would have been a good thing if they said it, because I know I threw my number away right after the race, and now so my personal data's all over the street actually.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, did you think about throwing away your number? Did you think your name is also on there? There's more data on it that you knew about. So the tracking device was in there. Your name is on it. I think even your age was on it. Did you think about that data being thrown away?
Yeah, well, if they track the location of the paper. So if I throw it away for the location, I didn't care actually. But yeah, my name and my date of birth and that kind of stuff is a little bit in the middle.
I didn't throw it away, but now when I know, I'm gonna
keep it with you.
Keep it with me, or just burn it, or do something that people couldn't get my data. Yeah, to be safe.
Okay, thank you everyone that you could be here today, and maybe till next time at CES TV.